Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Brazilian Algebraic Geometry Seminar. It's my pleasure to introduce Jean Vallée, my good friend and collaborator. He's been in Brazil several times already, and it's very nice to have him giving a talk here in our Brazilian seminar. And he'll tell us about free curves in a pencil of plane curves. Please, Jean, go ahead.
Thank you, Marcos. So good evening to everybody, or good afternoon. Well, this talk is, I will present today an improvement of an old result I obtained in 2015. And I already presented, so some of you probably heard the first part of this talk, and it will concern the way to obtain free curves from a pencil of curves. So the improvement was done last spring with a young student. Now he's doing a PhD thesis in the US. I was unable to find some financial support for him because of the COVID and all the difficulties in this period. But anyway, he's a very good student. His name is Wayne Ning Queen King, and he helped me to generalize the first step. So I will explain it during the talk. So what is the main object? In the first part, I want to insist on the notion of freeness of curves or freeness of divisor. So in general, I consider projective space. Well, probably the best field for me is C, but many things can be done also in R or some other fields. But so the first step is to consider a reduced divisor of degree D, let's say, to fix it in Pn. And I would like to study the polynomial vector fields tangent to D. What does it mean? It means that I consider some delta, like a derivation, which is a sum of pi and the derivation according to the variable xi. Pi are polynomials of the same degree. And I want this polynomial vector field to be tangent to f equals to 0, to the divisor, meaning that delta of f is 0. It can be also interpreted as a CZG, a polynomial CZG, P0 Pn, of the Jacobian map given by the partial derivatives of f. More in a Schiff way to write it, we can consider the map nabla f, given by the partial derivative of f, and the kernel of this map, a section of, the P0 Pn can be understood as a section of the kernel of the Jacobian map given by nabla f. So there is an identification here between polynomial vector fields verifying nabla delta f is equal to 0 with a CZG, or a global section of the kernel of the Jacobian map. So this kernel called TD is a sheaf of vector fields tangent to D, sometimes logarithmic sheaf. Well, it can have many names. In general, we find tangent inside the name or logarithmic inside the name or something like that. This TD, well, there is some shift, but it's not important here. But it corresponds modulo a shift by 1 to the dual shift of the omega Pn log D, which is a shift of one forms with pole at most of degree 1, with logarithmic poles. And this omega Pn log D was introduced by many authors. Probably one of the first was Arnold in the 60s, and then Deligne in the 70s. And Deligne considers this sheaf omega Pn log D for a divisor with normal crossing, a normal crossing divisor. Because in this case, omega Pn log D is a vector bundle over Pn. And if D is not a normal crossing divisor, in general, this sheaf and its dual won't be a vector bundle. But in some particular situation, it could be a vector bundle. And it was described by Saito in the 80s. So Saito generalized this notion or studied this notion also for D, for a reduced divisor, not only for normal crossing divisor. In the case of a reduced divisor D, sometimes these shifts, the logarithmic and the cotangent logarithmic in some sense, can be not only locally free, but also free. I will insist on this part on the next slide. But first of all, I can say in a general point of view that these shifts are studied to give some information on the topology of the complement of the projective space of Pn minus D. So, as I said, if D is not a normal crossing divisor, TD can still be a vector bundle. But in particular, it could be free, which means more than locally free. It means that globally, D is free if it splits as a sum of line bundles. So locally free is not a sum of line bundles in general. For instance, the tangent bundle in Pn is locally free, is a vector bundle or a locally free sheaf, but it's not a free sheaf. It's not a direct sum of line bundle. Here we're interested by divisor, or Saito was interested by divisor, reduced divisor, such that the kernel of the Jacobian map induced by this divisor is a direct sum of line bundles. This is the main object that I would like to study today. So it's not only locally free, but more generally, it is a free divisor, and we will it defines a divisor will be free if its logarithmic associated sheaf is a direct sum of line bundle. So what does it mean? It means, for instance, that the global vector field tangent to D are generated by n vector field tangent to D, exactly. Okay, so let me give you some quick examples of free and non-free divisor in P2. So for instance, smooth curves, here a smooth conic, here and then a smooth cubic. Smooth curves in general are not free. I said in general because of course a line will be free, but if the degree of a smooth curve is strictly bigger than 1, it is never free. So a conic or a cubic or a quartic are never free. We have to add some singular points, but it's not easy to determine exactly how many singular points and how they are organized. But the two lines define a free divisor. For the cubic, we need, for instance, one smooth conic and a tangent line, or three distinct lines, or three concurrent lines. Okay, so there are different examples. The examples here, y times y2 zeta minus x3 is a particular case of a general family given by Smith and Toeneanu in 2012. A general family of free divisor. And in this case, we can compute explicitly the two derivation or two vector fields that generate this module of tangent vector field. But in general, it won't be possible to, in the general situation without knowing the equation. Of course, if we know the equation, you can put the equation in Macaulay 2, and Macaulay 2 will say if it is free, not free, and if it is free, it can give you some generators or some basis for the decision. But considering in general a curve with some kinds of singularity. It's not easy to determine directly if it is free or not free. So for instance, smooth curves of degree bigger than 1 are never free, and also nodal curves are never free, except in degree 2, and that's all, I guess. So nodal curves are never free. It's a result proved by Dimka and Stiklaro, I think. Or Dimka and Cernesi. At least Dimka is inside. I don't remember if he did it with Cernesi or with Stiklaro. I'm sorry for the second author. So before given this new slide, the question is what makes a divisor free? And do they have a special geometry more than only singular points? Of course, in order to answer this question, we need to know examples or to produce examples, because there are very few. Well, now it's few. I mean, since 10 years, many papers appear about this free curve. So more examples are known. But in general, and more particularly in big higher dimension, there are very few examples of free divisors that are known. So we would like to produce free divisor in order to answer a general question, which could be why a divisor is free, what is the difference, the main difference between a free divisor and a divisor not free, but with the same kind of singularities, etc., etc. And of course, if you restrict your attention or your study to line divisor, to union of lines, or in general to hyperplane divisor, union of hyperplane in higher dimension, there is a strong conjecture done by Terao in the 80s, and saying that the freeness of a divisor is completely determined by the combinatorics of this divisor. So some special combinatorics would impose the freeness of the divisor, and it is still not proved. And for instance, for lines, it is proved until up to 13 lines, and that's all. So we don't know for 14 lines if it is true or if it is not true. So let me remind you some examples known in the literature and probably described in the first article by Terao in the 80s, 81 exactly. So there are 3 examples. One is called Seva bread arrangement or bread arrangement, given by 6 lines and given, for instance, by this equation. And these divisors is reduced, and it's not a normal crossing divisor, but the sheaf associated is free. It's a sum of O minus 2 plus O minus 3. So it means that you have one derivation of degree 2, the pi, the polynomials of the beginning are of degree 2, and another derivation of degree 3 that generates all the tangent logarithmic field. The tangent vector field, the vector field tangent to the divisor x, y, zeta, x minus y, x minus zeta, y minus zeta equal to 0. The second case is called essay arrangement. It is given by 12 lines, and the 12 lines are the product of these 3 polynomials of degree, these 4 polynomials of degree 3. And it is also free with a splitting -4, -7. And the last one called, since some years, Fermat arrangement. And the last one is also free. So the main thing is, of course, for all of this one, well, for xn, probably the computer do not compute the generators, but for the first one, you can compute the generators on the computer. But the fundamental observation is the following one. In these 3 cases, you can observe that D is always the union of all the singular members of a pencil. For instance, a pencil of conic for the first case. If you take the conic, the red conic on the picture and the black conic, then in the pencil of these two conics, red and black, you will obtain a third singular member in the pencil of conic, which is the blue one. And if you take, so in a pencil of conic, you have only 3 singular conics. If you take the union of these 3 singular conics, then it is a free curve. And in this case, a free arrangement of lines. In the same spirit, in the second case, you have 2 cubic, for instance, a smooth one, the Fermat cubic, x3 plus y3 plus zeta3, and it's a Hessian curve, x, y, zeta, the triangle. And if you take the pencil generated by these 2 cubic, then you will obtain cubic passing through the 9 points of intersection. And in this pencil, there are exactly 4 singular curves, and there are 4 triangles. So one is x, y, zeta equal to 0, and the other one is x3 plus y, the one written in the equation of 2. So again, if you take the union of these 4 triangles, then the divisor obtained by this union is 3. And the last example is the same. So this observation was done, well, at least this observation, I knew this observation thanks to Artal and Cogolludo. They are mathematicians in Zaragoza, and they believe, or they thought, or they still think, I guess, that this is a general phenomena. If you take a pencil of curves of degree n, and you take the union, you consider in this pencil all the singular members, you take the union of all the singular members, it should be a free divisor, and for some topological reason in some sense. So in the first time in 2015, I was able to prove it with some restriction on the hypothesis. And the main restriction is the following one. I assume that the curve have both curves of degree n, and they meet along n square points. So meaning that the base locus is smooth, and so it means that the general member of the pencil is smooth, but also that they meet transversally along n square points. I assume also that I have at least 2 curves, a union of 2 curves, k is equal to 2, and the degree of these curves is at least 1. So dk is a union of k members of the pencil, ds is a union of all the singular members of the pencil, and by hypothesis, the general curve of the pencil is smooth, so the singular members form a finite number of curves in the pencil. And then we can prove that dk is free with some exponents, if and only if dk contains all the singular members, the union of all the singular members. And moreover, we need another hypothesis. The singularities of each curve in each singular curve of the pencil are quasi-homogeneous singularity. I will precise why. Let me say that I need to precise exponents. I would prefer to say directly dk is free if and only if dk contains the singular members, and each curve in ds is quasi-homogeneous, have only quasi-homogeneous singularity. But for small values of k and n, it's possible to have some, not pathology, but some particular case. For instance, I guess it is not, it's not here directly. For instance, here you see, well, k is very small. It's outside the hypothesis of the k is 1 in this case. But if I consider only the 2 blue lines, then the TD1 is O1 plus O. And the splitting given by the theorem is O minus 2. There is a natural map from O minus 2 to this one, but we will have some zero locus. It's not exactly the splitting expected by the theorem. And it's due to the fact that K is too small to, well, so it's possible to remove the hypothesis that it is free with exponents. I mean, it's possible to not impose the exponent. They will come directly in the theorem. But there are some small cases, well, I prefer to leave the theorem like this. On arXiv, so it is published like this, but on arXiv I explain in some remark that it is possible to remove this hypothesis according to some particular cases, coming when K is small, something like that. Well, it's possible to have a discussion to remove this fact. But anyway, so the main idea here is to say that if you put together all the singular members of a pencil, if you take attention to the fact that you need some extra hypothesis on the nature of singularities, of these singular curves, then in this case, your union of curve is a free vector, is a free curve, and so leading to a free vector bundle of logarithmic sheaves. So let me precise what I mean by quasi-homogeneous. Quasi-homogeneous, a singular curve will have a quasi-homogeneous singularity in a point P, if and only if the Milnor number of the curve at this point coincide with the Turina number of this point at P. And both numbers are defined like it is written on the slide. You can see that since you cut again by F, the Turina will be smaller than the Milnor number. And what can I say more? And the Turina, well, the Milnor is in general probably easier to compute, but the Turina comes naturally in our problem. Indeed, if I consider the Jacobian map, so the exact sequences, what I wrote JAC-C is the image of nabla F, okay? So the Jacobian ideal defined by the partial derivatives of F. And when you want to compute the length of this locus zeta, or the length of the Jacobian, the length defined by the Jacobian ideal, this length, or the degree of JAC-C, is given by the sum of the Turina number and not the sum of the Milnor number, because it's locally the ideal generated by the partial derivatives will give you not dx, dxf, dyf, but dxf, dyf, and d zeta f, which is equivalent locally to f. Okay, so the numerical invariant of our vector bundle depends on the Turina number of C and not the Milnor number of C. And remind that this numerical invariant, they play an important role here, because if you are free, the C1 is just the sum of the two A and B. If your vector bundle of rank 2 is O minus A plus O minus B, you have C1, which is minus A minus B, and C2, which is AB. So the knowledge of this C2 is very important to decide if it is free or not free. Okay, so this is the point about. So let me say a word about the proof. So the main idea here is to find a derivation or a vector field which will be tangent to F equal to 0 and to G equal to 0 in the pencil, to the two generators of the pencil. So it means that you are looking for, in C3, a vector orthogonal to nabla F and to nabla G, and this vector is naturally nabla F wedge nabla G, given by the 2x2 minors of nabla F and nabla G. So if you define the derivation as nabla F wedge nabla G times delta, it is just a determinant of nabla F nabla G delta applied to F or to G or to any product of F and G, of linear combination of F and G, it is always 0. So what does it mean? It means that you have found, I hate too much, it's late, so you have found the derivation that or you have found a vector field that is tangent to all members of the pencil, but also to any product of curves in the pencil. And such a derivation induces a CZG common to all the Jacobian map. Okay, the CZG is nabla F wedge nabla G. It is free polynomials, and these free polynomials are orthogonal to the derivation of any product. And this CZG induces a section of the kernel. So you have the Jacobian map given by the derivation of the product of the K curves. The kernel is your logarithmic sheaf associated, logarithmic vector bundle here in P2 associated to this divisor Fk or to this union of divisors. And this CZG common to all this Fk induces a section S of TFK. And the degree 2 minus 2n is given by nabla F, nabla G, by the polynomials. Nabla F is are polynomials of degree n minus 1, nabla G polynomials of degree n minus 1. And the 2x2 minors give you polynomials of degree 2n minus 2. So you have this very special section valid for any TFK. And this section depends only on the pencil, depends only on n, and not on the number of curves k. So this leads to a big commutative diagram that we have to interpret. So the first long horizontal exact sequence is a Jacobian exact sequence. GZK is just a Jacobian locus defined of the nabla Fk. And so vertically, you have the zero locus of the section, G zeta S, or the F, big F is a rank 2 sheaf singular along the point where nabla F wedge nabla G vanishes. And so you see that F appears in the middle of the Jacobian ideal and the ideal of the vanishing locus of your section induced by this CZG. So the goal is to show that this zeta S will be empty if and only if dk contain all the singular members, and moreover, ds is quasi-homogeneous, has only quasi-homogeneous singularities. Why the goal is this one? Just because if your TFK is between two line bundles, then by Horrocks criterion, it splits as a direct sum of these two line bundles. Okay, observe that the last line gives you the information. This injection, when you dualize, gives you a surjection of the singular locus of F on the zeta S, meaning that zeta S is included in the singular locus of F. So now the point will be to understand what is the singular locus of F, and then to compute the length of this singular locus, and to show that if we put all the singular curves of the pencil in zeta k, then there will be nothing in zeta S, and zeta S will be empty. So let me describe in a simple case. For instance, in a pencil or conic, zeta S will be, the singular locus of F will be given by the three vertices of the three singular members of the curves in the pencil. And to probably, okay, we can, it's not written in the good order. So please read the last three lines. So zeta delta is the name of the singular locus of F. A point belongs to this singular locus of F if and only if the three polynomials nabla F, wedge nabla G vanish at P. But this is equivalent to the existence of a linear combination such that the derivation of both is zero. Okay, because if the 2 by 2 minors vanish, it means that you can have a column of zero, and a column of zero means that there is a linear combination vanishing at P. So the singular point of F are exactly the singular point of some singular members in the pencil. And moreover, since we assume that F and G meet transversally along n square points, there is no, in this point, there is no singular curves in the pencil passing through this point. All the curves of the pencil pass smoothly through the base locus. So the singular points are always outside the base locus. It is important. And to compute the length of this scheme of singular points of singular members of the curves, we dualize the exact sequence defining F and the vertical in the middle. You dualize the vertical line in the middle. You obtain the exact sequence, the horizontal exact sequence here, and you can compute easily by some Chern class computation the length of zeta delta. And the length of zeta delta is exactly what is hoping. It is 3n-1 square, which is exactly the degree of the discriminant variety in the degree n curves in P2. Okay, so it means that the singular locus of F is exactly, in this case, the scheme of singular points of the singular members of the pencil. So for instance, in a pencil of conic, it is a generic pencil of conic like the one here. It is given by the 3 points, the 3 vertices of the three singular conics in the pencil. Okay. Observe that in this commutative diagram, F appears in a vertical exact sequence, but also in horizontal exact sequence. And so we can compute the C2 of F in 2 different ways and remove the C2 of F, and we obtain some relation between the length of zeta k, the length of zeta s, and some number coming from the computation of C2 of F. And this number can be interpreted easily in some sense with our hypothesis. So the first one is n2 k-1 square. What is it? It is exactly the contribution of the base locus, because you take k curves passing through the n square point. If you take k branches passing at one point, the contribution is k-1 square. Since you have n square points, you have a contribution of n square k-1 square. So this contribution is exactly the one along B, the one given by the union of k curves at B. And so the other one, 3n-1 square. So this, the B here is exactly in zeta k, and do not intersect zeta s, do not contribute to zeta s. And so the goal now is to put all the 3n-1 square into zeta k, and then zeta s will be empty. Okay, the contribution of B, And in this case, Turina coincide to the Mellor, coincide to k minus 1 squared. There are n2 points, so we have all these numbers here. And we can observe also that if P is in B, by hypothesis, this nabla F wedge nabla G evaluated P won't be 0 because by hypothesis, we have n squared points of intersection. And as I said before, any curve of the pencil is smooth at B. So this one does not vanish at B. And then it means that P is not in the singular locus of F. And if it is not in the singular locus, it is not in ZS. So this contribution n squared k minus 1 squared, as I said, is completely inside zeta k in the Jacobian ideal. If P is not in B, then we have two different numbers appearing. We have this one given by the singular locus of F, and the singular locus of F at B will contribute as a Milnor number, mu P of F. But the Jacobian, the contribution of the Jacobian at P will not be this one, but will be this one given by the singular curves at P. And this one is a Turina number. So if they do not coincide, then something will miss, and this contribution more in F will go into zeta S. If both coincide, we will have the contribution of F correspond to the contribution of the Jacobian, zeta k, and so the point P will not be in zeta S. So you need this coincidence at P, and this is equivalent to the quasi-homogeneity of the singularity. So in conclusion, if dk contains ds, ds is quasi-homogeneous, then the C2 of zeta S will be empty, and all the contribution will appear in the Jacobian. So this one is empty, and the last one split. Okay, this is the strategy and more or less the complete proof. So, okay, so now let me, do you have a question, or do you want a precision on what I said before? Or? Anyway, I will repeat more or less the same kind of argument, because now I will generalize slightly the hypothesis. And okay, this is a verification of what I said before. Okay, the union of the singular members of the pencil. Here another example. If you take the Pappus arrangement of 9 lines, then in this pencil you have 3 triangles, but 3 triangles in a pencil of cubic is not enough because it gives you 9 points, but you need 12, you need a degree 12 of singularity because the discriminant variety has degree 12. And so in the general case, 3 nodal cubics are missing. And if you add these 3 nodal cubics to the Pappus arrangement, then you get a free arrangement. This one, TP is not free, because the zeta is not empty, it is given by the free nodes. Okay, so now we have, if we want to generalize this theorem, we can consider 2 different situations. The first situation is when the pencil is not regular, meaning that the general curve in the pencil is singular. And for instance, this is an example inspired by the famous examples of pencil of sextics with 6 cups on a smooth conic given by Zariski. And Zariski gave this example to produce 2 curves, or 2 what is called now Zariski pairs, 2 curves, a sextic with 6 cups on a smooth conic, a sextic with 6 cups not on a smooth conic. So in some sense they are very similar, but the fundamental group of the complement are not isomorphic. They do not have the same fundamental group. And so the P2 and well, they are called Zariski pair, but of course I'm not at all a specialist, but this example is very common to Hartal and Kogoyodo, and they wanted to understand the situation about freeness in this case. So if you consider this pencil of sec 6, what can be said is that the general, any sec 6 in this curve will have some cusp on the base locus. So all the curves of the pencil are singular. So it is not a regular pencil. The second case is a case where the pencil is not general, meaning that the base locus of curves of degree n contains strictly less than n square points. So it means that you have some tangency in along the base locus, like on the picture here. We have two smooth conic, but meeting in 3 points instead of 4 points. So all this part was done with Wayne Linkwinking during his master internship. So the natural generalization of the previous theorem is the following one. So I still consider that the intersection is smooth. I mean, the base locus of F and G is a smooth set of AB points. Okay, degree F is A, degree G is B. I consider the pencil of FB GA. So this pencil is not regular. The curves of this pencil are singular along the base locus, but if we remove the power, the intersection of F and G consists in AB distinct points. Then, first of all, there are, I mean, the general curve in this pencil is singular in these AB points, but the general curve in this pencil is smooth outside the base locus by Bertini theorem. But there are some plus singular curves, in the pencil, singular outside B. And this number of singular curve is smaller than this number, a minus 1 square plus a minus 1 b minus 1 plus b minus 1 square. You can observe that if a is equal to b, then we find again 3n minus 1 square. And I call again ds the union of these curves. Then dk will be 3, and this time with exponent a plus b minus 2 and the corresponding number. If and only if, again, dk contains ds, and the singularity outside B of ds are quasi-homogeneous. So the strategy is exactly the same. We find a canonical section to all the dk, and we prove that this section, or we try to prove that this section does not vanish at all in P2. The same vector field still acts. So you see, I began with some power, but the vector field is given by F and G, by the wedge product of F and G, and applied to the product of element of the pencil FBGA, it still gives you tangent vector field. And this induces a global section S delta. And we can compute as before the singular locus of this derivation, or the scheme defined by the vanishing of the free polynomials nabla F wedge nabla G, and it has a length given below on the page, obtained by computation of the Chern classes. So we have the same commutative diagram with some interpretation of the different locus. So dualizing the last line, the last exact sequence, we obtain this long exact sequence. Here there is probably some mistake on, it's not O zeta K. So we have OT, this one is okay, but the second one is not O zeta K. I mean, to have the structural shift, certainly some hypothesis on the local complete intersection of ZK is necessary. So zeta delta or zeta S, it's like this, but zeta K, the Jacobian ideal, is not locally a complete intersection necessarily. But anyway, we can compute explicitly T in this case. It's a complete intersection given by two polynomials U and V realizing some equality. And this T is computed for a union of K smooth outside B members of the pencil. And we can see that if you take, for instance, the union for zeta K or Fk, you take a union of K curves, K members in the pencil that are not plus singular, they are only singular along the base locus. Then O zeta K will coincide with OT and O zeta delta with O zeta S. So there is the same kind of game than before, with some technical difficulties, but not so important. And mainly we verify that the locus zeta K minus the contribution of the base locus coincide with zeta delta, which is, zeta delta is the singularity of nabla F weight nabla G. And then necessarily the last one, zeta S, will be 0. You see the long exact sequence. If zeta K minus T coincide with zeta delta, the last one, zeta S, is 0, and then the first vertical exact sequence in the commutative diagram splits. Okay, so DK is free with this splitting. Here are some example or some illustration by hand. So G is a cubic, F is a conic, and we consider the pencil F cube G square. So the general conic is smooth outside B, but you have some special sextics that are not smooth outside B, like the red one. And this is a plus singular curve. And then we can compute with some examples. This computation is done by hands because everything is quite explicit. So by hand, we can find easily the singular points. So you see this cubic, this black cubic, and this gray conic. And in this pencil, X in the pencil of the square of the cubic and the cube of the conic, we find 5 singular curves outside the base locus, and they are given here. And if you take the union of the three, not the multiple one, but the other one, the last 3 sextics here, then this union will be free and with the splitting expected. And we can find a better example, better in the sense that we will have less polynomials. If I take a triangle for the cubic and a smooth conic like this, then there is only one, or with the triangle 2, but there is only one sextic, general sextic, which is singular. So this F3 minus 27 G2 is singular along the 4 points. And if you take the union with the other cubic, then this union is free with a nice splitting, a small one. And we can remove one line, and we keep the freeness for the divisor, and I will explain why. Okay, so this is the example for the non-regular pencil. We can produce a lot of new examples like this, and I I didn't send them yet to Artal and Kogodo Yudo, but I guess that they could be interested by this part. Well, now the tangential case. So the problem with the tangential case is that if you remember in the first part of this talk, I did some proof, in some sense a naive proof, because everything is very separated. The singular locus of F do not coincide with B, and so you can identify the singular locus with the set of singular points, etc., etc. But the problem is that if you have some tangential case, if we have less than n square points in the base locus, it means that there is a singular curve in the pencil that is singular along B in the base locus, along some point of B, because both are singular here, both are proportional here, so you have a curve singular at this point P. And now new difficulties arise because in general, if they do not meet transversally, the Milnor and the Churina number will differ, and it becomes very difficult to compute the degree of this Jacobian. So we think that it is the theorem should be valid, but since there are all these small difficulties, we believe that a new strategy is necessary. And actually, during the summer, I found a new strategy, and so now I have a complete proof, but with a different way to prove it. So I will explain it next day, not today. Sorry. So, for instance, the tangential case, what happens? You see, for instance, if I take even two conics that are osculating conics. So there is a contact, there are 2 points of contact, one with degree 3 and one with degree 1. Then the first one, the union of two conics, is not free. You have to add the singular member in the pencil. There is only one singular member in the pencil. Then it is free, so it corresponds to what we are expecting in the theorem. But if you take three conics, osculating conics in the pencil, but smooth one, it is also free. And, you do not need to add the singular member to get the freeness. And this is because the length where something is attained with this number. So we concentrate, so we need a new strategy, and I'll explain next day this new strategy. But then we concentrate on the conic case. And about the conic case, we compute the smaller number of free, smaller, not exactly, but for instance, when we have some oscillation, we can see that three smooth conics lead to a free curve. When we have surosculation, 2 conics is enough, etc., etc. So we compute these smaller free unions, and then we prove that adding smooth curve to a free union is still free. And then we can deduce the Churina numbers. I don't know if it is already done in the literature. I guess recently, yes, but it's a direct consequence of what we did, so I mention it here. But you see there are many, in this picture, the first example on the left side of the page is a generic pencil, then a tangent pencil, then an osculating pencil, then a bitangent pencil, and then a surosculating pencil. So all these cases. And we observe that we can remove some part of the singular members. We can remove the singular. There are a lot of different games to play. For instance, the surosculating case with the number 3 is 3, 1, 2 with 2 smooth curves. This one, do you see the mouse or no? Yes, okay. So this one is not free because we do not pass enough to this point in some sense. But this one is free. If we add a smooth curve in the pencil, in the tangent pencil, and we keep this, we need to have this line because there is this, oh, sorry, this point, this blue point has to be, you have to pass through this blue point. If you do not take a component passing through this blue point, then this blue point will come in the zero locus of the section, and this section could not be free. Okay, so there is a lemma saying that if you add a smooth member to a union of curves in the pencil, then it is still free. And thanks to this freeness, you will be able to write the Jacobian exact sequence and to compute explicitly the Turina number. So the Turina number for, in this case, osculating conics is this one for K osculating conics. You can compute for sur-osculating conics, and you can compute the Turina numbers also. Now, sometimes we can also remove some component of a singular member in the pencil. For instance, here in the consequence free, I can remove this line and it is still free. I will see on the next page why. And then if you add a smooth curve, it is still free. And you can verify that this number, then since you know the exponents, you can compute the C1 and the C2, so you know the Turina number, and you can verify that the Turina and the Milnor do not coincide in this example, for instance. So this singularity is not a quasi-homogeneous singularity, even if it is not very complicated as a singular point. So remove a component. If you assume that the pencil contains a singular member, VH1, H2, for instance, like in the example below. So you have a line, two lines in the example below, H1 and H2. You assume that they are they intersect in a normal crossing way, and you assume also that VH1 is smooth. Then you can remove this VH1 and you keep the freeness of your divisor. So for instance, here, this one, of course, in the generic pencil of conic contains the free singular conics, but you can remove, this is H1, you can remove H1 and it is still free. You can remove this one also, this horizontal one, it is still free. And so you simplify in some sense your divisor in order to keep a free divisor. And this example XY F3 minus the last one is this situation. Okay. So we have this triangle and we have the red one, and the union of the triangle and the red one is a free divisor. But of course you have H2 is given by these two lines, H1 is given by this line. The intersection is a normal crossing, is a good intersection, they intersect transversally. So you can remove this H1 and keep only the two sides of the triangle and the red curves, and it is still free, like here, thanks to this last lemma. Okay, so the next, okay, another example is a special papus. Well, I like to put some pictures, but so if you consider this particular papus, sorry, you see that inside this pencil you have one triangle, black one, another triangle, another black one here, and the third union of line is not a triangle; it's a three concurrent lines. So the contribution to the singularity instead of being 3 is 4, and so it misses a singular curve of degree 2 in order to get 12. And this last one is given by a conic and a line. And here is a line and here is a conic. And so according to the lemma before, you can remove, of course, the union of all this stuff, since they are all the singular members of the pencil is 3, but you can remove the conic, C2. Sorry, you can remove the conic C2, or you can remove the line. Of course, the splitting will change because the degree change, but you cannot remove the line H. If you remove the line H, it is not free because in this point, you do not have a normal crossing divisor. And to finish, this is my last slide. Give some hint of the proof of the, well, I write proposition, but I guess it was, okay, it's a proposition. Some hint of the proposition. The point is to, if you have, it's natural that if you have a vector field tangent to H1 union H2, this vector field will induce a vector field tangent to H1. But the section, the derivation, if you want a derivation that give you 0, there is some shift or some change. And okay, we begin with some delta vanishing in H1 in H2, and we are able to produce a new, it will induce a new derivation vanishing also along H1. But you have to make some twist with the Euler derivation. And what the hypothesis on the normal crossing divisor show you that since H1 of P is 0, the factor Kp appearing here, the K does not vanish at P. And then it shows that delta 1, the new derivation, vanishing, induced, sorry, by delta, does not vanish at P. Okay, so the game is to find, because a derivation in general, or a vector field, we will say that it is tangent to F in general if delta F is a factor, a product of F by something else, is in the ideal generated by F. But here we are interested by section of this logarithmic shifts, and so we need derivation vanishing in F. Delta F is 0. We want more than delta F include in F. We want delta F is 0. So the derivation delta vanishing in the union, and you see the derivation delta 1 vanishing in H1, but you need some shift, and this shift induces that this new derivation delta 1 is not singular at P. And then since it is not singular at P, and since the P is removed from the Jacobian ideal, because you have a normal crossing divisor, so a simple double point in P2, you remove one component, it becomes a smooth sponge, so it disappears from the Jacobian ideal. It disappears also from the singular locus of F, and so it is not in zeta S. And you keep the freeness. This is the idea. Okay, so I will finish. I finish here. Thank you very much for your attention. And if you have some question,
Thank you, Jean, for your presentation. Are there any questions or comments? So I have a question, Jean, that I think I missed something, because you mentioned at some point that singular pencils. Is there any results for finding free curves within singular pencils? Because your results are for regular pencils, right?
No. This one, well, the first result is only for regular pencil, but this one is for singular pencil. You take the singular pencil is given by FBGA, F and G are reduced polynomials, or even smooth curves if you want, but I could take some power on like F cube and G square after. So
Okay.
in this case, any member of the pencil is singular.
Okay.
The point that they are singular along the base locus, but the general member of the pencil is smooth outside the base locus. But there are some plus singular curves in this pencil.
Okay. But
Like,
not every singular pencil is of this form, right?
No, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Oh yeah, I don't think so either.
But it could be. I don't know.
Okay.
Because it's not. I mean, a pencil is. If you do not, I mean, probably if you need two multiple members. Okay. Yes, it could be. Of course, yeah. No, it's not exactly of this kind because we can have some smooth terms, some reduced polynomials times multiple polynomials. We take this is one member of the pencil, and the other member of the pencil is also a multiple times reduced one, and then in the intersection we'll have some singularity along the intersection of the two multiple.
Okay.
But then it's not exactly of this kind. There are something
Okay.
else to explore.
Mm-hmm.
No, I concentrate on this case because the question by Hartal and Koguyudo was mainly on F cube and G square, or this kind of situation.
Okay. And then I guess my other general question is, you gave several examples and so on, but is there, what I mean is somehow deform a given example. So a given example, are you able to deform it and keep freeness? I don't know, wiggle a little bit the lines and the various components, keeping the intersections, and then the deformed divisor is still free, or are these three divisors rigid?
Yes. Yeah, this is a good question. For instance, I don't know in the case of the triangle and the cubic here. It was some probably by, I don't know, by chance that there is only one plus singular curve. You see, the red one is singular along 4 points. We expect in the, probably if you deform slightly this situation, keep the triangle, but you, instead of x2, y2, zeta2, you take another conic. You could find 4 singular members instead of one singular along 4 points. I don't know. This is a good question, but what is still true is that if you put together all the plus singular members, then it is free. And what we try to do is to obtain the least number of members possible. That's why we were happy with this x, y, zeta f3 minus 27g2. But it's
3 curves of the smallest possible degree.
Yes. This was the goal in some sense.
Okay. Thanks. Are there more questions or comments?
I have one question. So these examples, or this class of free curves that you construct, are quite remarkable in the sense that they belong to infinite families, the nested infinite families, right? You start with a divisor and keep adding curves, and the thing is still free. Yes. So do these phenomena characterize a free divisor such that the first vector field is a fibration, is tangent to a fibration or to a pencil?
Yeah, you have to precise me again what you call fibration in this case.
Pencil, tangent to a pencil, an arbitrary pencil. Because you see the first, unless the exponents are equal, yes, 2 or 3 divisor you have canonically associated one foliation. And the foliations which are tangent to a pencil, the things that admit rational first integrals, are somehow dynamically the simplest possible. And this possibility of having an infinite chain of free divisors seems to be a quite exceptional behavior among free divisors. And so I was kind of guessing or wondering if this could perhaps be a link, right? This kind of very special behaviors in free divisors be explained by the simplicity of the behavior of the foliation. Let's say that this first guy. So.
Yes, I think this is what was conjectured by the Spanish guy, by José and Enrique, by Artal and Cogolludo, because they considered this family dominating the pencil, the P1, and then the general fiber is a smooth fiber, and the topological probably this is what you said about vibration. They have the same they have the same topology in some sense. If you remove the singular one, you have always one fiber, and you can identify the. And I don't know how to answer correctly.
Well, let me make the opposite question. Are there no examples, or do we have explicit examples where of free divisors such that they are not subdivisor of any other free divisors? I think that's the general situation, right? But
okay. Are you? Yes. I think. So you wonder if it is possible to obtain some free divisor which is not
kind of maximal
building by a pencil, coming from a pencil.
Yeah.
Also for lines. Yes, for lines, I know examples that are not belonging to a pencil of.
But they are, and also that are maximal, right? That are not subdivisors of any free divisor.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm just trying to figure out if there is some kind of taxonomy and how in a possible taxonomy of free divisors, how this family of examples you're producing fit. But so that's just very.
It's a good question, and probably this notion of maximality is studied for what is the name? Yes, in the classification of, in the strategy to prove what is called Terrao's conjecture about the combinatorics of line or hyperplane arrangement, there are a lot of different names for arrangement. I guess some subcanonical arrangement, or I don't. Do you remember the name, Marcos? Or we discussed sometime. Okay, there are different. There are different names, but I forgot them. And in general, in these families, there is a canonical way to relate the free arrangement to another one by adding some lines or removing some lines. So you belong to a family that keeps the freeness in some sense. So there is no maximal set, or at least the question of maximal set in this family is a good question. But I don't know exactly. I cannot answer precisely at your question.
Yeah, because in order to add a line and keep freeness, this line has to be in a certain position and pass through certain points.
Yes,
right?
Yes. In
so
the
it's
pencil,
not clear that you can keep doing that.
No. In the pencil, it is automatic, as you remarked, by adding some smooth member. You can. If you put all the singular members, you can add what you want. After it keeps the freeness.
Mm-hmm.
And you can remove some pieces of the singular numbers if there exist, and keep also the freeness. Sometimes it is and the Spanish they wanted also to verify this, because in their way to interpret the situation, the important point was to pass through the singular points. It's not important to pass too many times through these singular points. You have to pass a certain number of times through these singular points.
Okay,
Are
thank
there
you.
more questions and comments? So let's thank Jean again.